Thank you. Yeah, this one. This one. Copy link. One. All right, turn that back off.
Yeah, you don't need to record till we figure out what we're doing a little bit, or you'll have a whole
Oh, it's okay. It doesn't matter. I can. The suite is really helpful. I just find it and flip it, and it's easy, super easy.
Okay.
I've done lots and lots and lots of video editing. I have lots of videos in my online courses.
Oh, I just kind of have to muckle along and hope that they open. I'm pretty good at getting them started on the right time.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
So mine are unclipped. Mine are raw material.
Mine are raw too, but they're not lives. They're not as raw as Facebook Lives. I do go into Zoom and into my personal room, record it 3 times, and take the best of the 3 times.
Which you can't do on a live because they all go live.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I will do it in my personal room and listen to it. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not what I wanted to say. Okay.
Well, if you know right away, you can just say, don't post it, kind of thing.
Yeah. If you're like, wow, that
know.
was a tangled mess. But if people are following you, then they see it live. There's nothing you can do about that.
So how shall we do this? You want me to facilitate a little bit and we kibitz around, and when you're ready to, now Suzanne, you and I got good broad shoulders. So if we go and say about our saboteurs, and Linda, she's really good at coming back in and saying, oh, that's your judge, you can do this.
You're pretty good though too, Sandra. I'm the one that needs to be whipped into shape.
Okay, so as long as
my...
you're not being sensitive is the only thing. I know you'd like us to ask.
The only one I'm sensitive to right now is Matt Boggs, and neither one of you are Matt Boggs, so I'm good.
Yeah,
I can probably find one of your hot buttons without much difficulty, but
well, I think that would be the fun thing. And then so we get our hot buttons out, and you give us a lick, and then we'll say, and how are you doing, Linda? And you'll go with your spew of, because you are
silly nonsense.
When you do it. Yeah. And then if we want to, we can come back for around a bit around these sages. I don't know I forget what the third power is, or the third gift. The first is power,
inspiration,
knowledge, power,
inspired action. And as he says, it's not necessarily like, one of the things that I wanted to do kind of immediately after my divorce was go on a rampage and start an entire organization to stop how police handle witnesses and victims, because they treat them all like criminals.
Yeah,
which is additionally traumatizing for people. And I kind of knew that before, but my goodness, it was really obvious afterwards. That would be,
I don't think that's going to go in our comic routine.
Probably not, but that would be like direct inspired action, like my daughter was killed by a drunk driver. I made Mothers Against Drunk Driving, kind of direct. But he said the other thing is, like you end up being chased by a bad guy and nearly falling over of a heart attack and losing your purse anyways. And your inspired action for that is to get healthier. So you quit smoking and you take up exercise and you like taking.
Okay, I think that's, you've got that nicely done. So I think that should come in so that we can have a little bit of a balance around what's happening, so that this little comedy routine has a bit of a context. That's what I'm thinking. And you're really good at nailing that stuff down. So Suzanne and I can be the dummies. You might say, well, Suzanne, you just got, what happened? You were going to fight for your purse? Oh, no, I ran. What happened? I fell. Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so where will we start here? Oh, I'm glad you can do a cut and a clip.
Yeah, I can do all kinds of magical things. I'm amazing.
Okay,
I'm trying to get Suzanne's.
I love it. I'm amazing.
All right. Okay.
Hey guys, hey, how do you think of that? Shiraz Shireen on his saboteurs and what are they? Sages.
Sages.
I spend so much time in the the crap hole.
Okay, I'll bleep you out.
No, that's, I don't know if you even want to. I spend so much time in the negative, down there, my voices, and he's trying to tell me I can get over there. How's that
Well-
working for you this week, Suzanne?
Oh, I would like to get over there instead of down there. That would be all right by me. Linda, tell us how we can do that.
Oh, well, see, the thing is, it's not about getting over there. It's about staying here and shutting off some of those nasty little voices that are growing up in your head.
You mean,
The judge that's picking on you all the time, or picking on your situation, or picking on the other people. You know
I
that?
have a head this big with 7 different tracks going by, and I think the saboteurs on each one of those trains. How do I get rid of all those trains and have the sage come out?
The trick is to get back in your body, because you're right. You have 85 different things going on in your mind. Did you know you have 6 brains at least? At least 6 brains. There's
well,
at least 5 of them.
we knew we had 9 saboteurs.
Well, there's 5 brains in your head. You probably have a brain in your skin. You certainly have one in your heart and one in your stomach. So go ahead, try getting them all talk to each other at the same time.
Oh, I feel all those saboteurs, and I have them in my knees too, I think.
Very likely. So the thing is, with the saboteurs, and of course the judge, the master saboteur of all they're trying to do is protect you. Now they're confused. They think they're protecting you from the dire, horrible, instinctive things that we were afraid of when we were 3 and 4 and 5.
And it was true back then, wasn't it?
It,
I mean, when
it
I
felt,
was little, if I knew the discipline was coming down, I better scuttle out of there, and I'd only know that.
because your survival brain would come up and help you. And back in the day when we lived in forests and jungles and stuff, we were much more open to predators. Our early childhood instincts don't know anything about this door and window nonsense and the total lack of urban bears or tigers or whatever. We are still reacting to those very helpful instinctive survival techniques as if we were still in physical danger. Our brains will not be unconvinced that they are helping us and being our bestie frenzies. So when the judge comes up and you're like, oh, I'm feeling really balanced and sane and in my body for a little while, and I've done some PQ reps, so I can get the judge to sort of step aside, and up pops the, hey, there's a computer game you might want to play. Or, hey, I can control all those people, and as long as I can get them to do the right thing, then I'll feel safe. And then they like tag out, they take turns. As soon as you get one of them, you're like, I identify you, rational thinking human. Stop it. This is not helpful in this moment. And it's like, okay, let's go do 12 projects.
Whack-a-mole, whack-a-mole, whack-a-mole.
It's very much whack-a-mole. And you get to you think I have like 4 that are really strong, and you get to the end of them, you're like, that's all 4 of them. And up pops the judge again and says, oh yeah, but if you were better at this.
So you mean to say these are all the little voices when we keep putting ourselves down and stay. I'm learning that if I feel bad, I'm not supposed to be there. I'm only supposed to feel good.
Well, no, that's not quite how it is. It's if you didn't feel bad ever. I like one of the things he says in the book. If you don't feel bad ever, like if your positive assessment score is over 95, you're probably clinically insane, because your survival brain won't work. Like then if somebody is attacking you, you'll be like, oh, young flower. Or
My fingers.
you get attacked by,
fight, or flight and gone.
well, that's the thing. If you're too much positive all the time about everything, your fight or flight response doesn't work. Like you can't be that positive all the time. The point is, if you're reacting as if you're being attacked by a bear when you are worried about where your daughter is at 9 o'clock at night, you're not using the skills that your thinking brain has also been developed to use. You're using skills that are only for when we're under attack, and we become habitually very, very good at them. As he says, they're muscles, we use them, they get stronger. They get stronger and stronger and stronger. So then you end up with a really, 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 really strong controller, or a really, 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 really strong people pleaser, or a really, really, really strong stickler who's very good at perfection and not very good at leaving things undone.
And somebody's pointing their finger at me all the time until long ago, I watched Mary Poppins. And I like to be happy.
Well, and the thing is, you
because
can.
chosen to be happy most of the time because I'm not in danger at the moment. I'm looking around. There ain't nobody here but the
little whack-a-mole team. Yeah. I like to think of them as Mexican wrestlers. You know, they all have a different mask and they like tag out and take over for each other, jump into the ring. You know, sometimes two of them come at once. My Restless and my Avoider are very good friends. They spend
What do
a
they
lot of time
sound like,
together.
Linda?
Well, just, you know, hey, that game might have a new level on it now.
Good.
I have that feeling in the pit of my stomach that makes me think, well, maybe there's something wrong in my life. And I think, no, there's nothing wrong in my life. I'll just go play a game. I'll just scroll through Facebook for another 8 hours or something. Yeah.
That's called
Fabulous.
distraction.
That's
Yeah, I
my
was just gonna
Restless.
say that. That's one of Mary's
my Restless.
triple D's. Distraction, dissuasion, or DEFCON 1. And I found myself in DEFCON 1, but maybe you find yourself in distraction. Where are you, Sandra?
Well,
Are
no, I'm restless too, so it's distraction. First, I start with dissuading myself that I need to do it right now because I'm sure that I can put it off. And look, I can check my emails and see if my video got posted yet. And
I need
then
more
as
tea.
I'm distracted and I get into my liquid, then I turn around and find a way to just, well, I have to do it tomorrow now. And
Yeah, and then there's the fun
fun.
little shame storm of, I should have done that last week.
I should have done that.
And if I'd done it yesterday, and if I do it right now, shut up, I don't want to deal with that. I'm just going to pretend it doesn't happen. I'm going to go avoid it for a little while because I've earned it. I love that one.
Yes.
I deserve it. You
Yes.
only live once. YOLO. All of those kinds of excuses for why it is that we, you know, keep doing what we know we should not be doing, or stop ourselves from doing what we know we should be doing, because YOLO doesn't want to go to the gym. In spite of the fact that going to the gym might actually mean that you're only living once for longer.
I know that I used to be a school teacher many decades ago. And they always said there's two kinds of teachers. There's the teacher that retires after 35 years, teaching 35 times. Or there's the other teacher that teaches for 35 years, but once.
Yeah.
They forgot to turn off the saboteurs and go explore.
Yes. They didn't learn about Miss Frizzle. Do you guys know Miss Frizzle? You have kids the right age to watch Magic School Bus?
Oh yeah, no, I was Miss Frizzle for sure. Oh my gosh. I would be like, this is so exciting. I'm gonna dress up and go explore this for the kids. I would have more fun than the kids would have because it was all about Miss Frizzle. I was just looking at those books yesterday, all the Magic School Bus books that I have stored in my storage unit, which
Your collection of things you can't let go of because you might need them in a minute.
well, I might do something like a bookstore, all these things. So my hyperachievers, it has like 7 different careers for me all simultaneously. And I had to figure out how to say no, shiny object syndrome, shiny object syndrome, shiny object, mainstream.
Thanks, Restless. Let's just stick to the one thing. Yeah. Yeah. Shiny squirrel. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
One of my favorites. Absolutely. Well, and there's a whole bunch of them. Like the victim is the one that I find the most confusing because I don't do that. So it's obviously not something that my early child figured out as a way of soothing what was going on or making me feel any better, or even just making the feelings go away. That whole, oh, poor me, it's terrible. And it must be because it's all my fault.
oh, but
Everybody hates me and I'm
those
gonna kill
people are
myself.
so tiring.
Well, they are, but I don't understand, like, how is that soothing?
Well, it's
Because,
kind of
I mean,
in the
it sounds
class
like-
with complainer. What's the
You know,
complainer?
Yeah,
I've got this wound. I think I'll scrape it with a metal knife or something.
I find that the victim has, for me, has grown into the hypervigilant. No, I refuse to be victimized anymore, but I don't trust you either.
Yeah, there might be somebody out there. Might something.
Yeah, yeah, so
Are they back again?
I'll be highly alert. Now I went from feeling like everybody was after me to
Just them. Yeah.
I
One of
don't
my
trust
favorite.
you.
There's 2 things that I love about paranoia. The first one is that just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you. And the other one, in case your hyper alert isn't awake yet. The other one that I really liked is you can be pronoid as well. You can decide that the whole world is actually working quietly away in a plot for you.
For me. For me.
Oh,
Ooh.
Yeah.
I
Imagine
like that.
they're all plotting. Okay, let's go with that. They're all plotting for you.
Well, that's what it would be if in our imagination we see what we're wanting to manifest and we live in that imagination long enough for us to catch up to it. Actually, that would be it's all for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a real Wayne Dyer. You'll see it when you believe it thing.
Right, right. And so it's when it goes to the extreme that it becomes a sickness that you have to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's a really important thing about this work as well. That one of the things that Suzanne said earlier today about, or it was yesterday, about not being able to see the good in something. It's like, that's not the point. The point isn't like everything's smiley and sunshine and roses and we'll watch Mary Poppins again. That's not the point. The point is the sage is very realistic. The sage isn't all sweetness and light and rainbows and sparkles. The sage just sees that a situation that hurts or bothers us or is unsuitable or hurts other people needs to be changed. And wallowing in those bad feelings or avoiding them, my personal favorite. You know, I have an avoider and a hyper rational, so they tag team themselves as well. It's like, oh, I'll be really logical about this. Nope, I just won't deal with it at all. Oh, no, I'll be rational. No, I won't deal with it. No, I'll be rational. And then my
Feel
rationalist
pulled
takes
in
over.
2 ways.
Yeah.
Little bit, just a little bit. The thing is, when we're in our sage brain, that the forebrain that is the last of our brains to evolve, when we're there, even when there's frustrating or irritating or painful experiences going on, we are also filled with joy. Because the ground state of humans is supposed to be happiness. Happiness is what happens when all the rest of those dark voices and scary thoughts have been quieted enough for us to hear ourselves.
I think
Because that's not some magical.
I think
other
it's
thing.
maybe a little less about happiness, although that might be how I think it's more like contentment and peace and feeling good. For me, it's feeling grounded and having this observer out here, which is just watching what is so.
Yeah.
Mm.
Somebody
It's not
taking
having a
a
war
purse
with
is just
reality.
somebody taking a purse is not so. Let them have your purse.
Yeah. Well, obviously,
You
they
running
need
is a
it for
reaction and a choice, and falling over is just an action caused by you running because you were worried about the purse.
well, and you got attached to the idea that the purse is supposed to stay with you,
Mhm.
as opposed to being a empathic observer who says, wow, getting my purse pulled out of my hand hurt my hand.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wonder
so
if I can have their purse.
turn into a picture. A picture that was taken, and I'm supposed to be like, so maybe I should be more observant.
I think the
Oh.
thing that I would say first, because I think this is really the fundamentals of this is a fundamental part of this conversation. When you use the word should, you are removing yourself from current reality.
Okay.
And as soon as you remove yourself from reality, you're no longer in pew brain, right?
Right.
Current reality is you don't have that picture. Do you remember the picture well?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So do you remember it without being able to currently touch it or see it?
Yes.
So it's not actually gone.
True. It's right here.
Exactly. And when you get attached to the object of the picture, instead of the image of the picture or the memory of the picture or the feelings that go along with the picture, you get stuck with the idea that the feelings and the memories are attached to the picture, but they're not. And all of that attachment, that's why it's called quiet detachment. All that attachment makes you say things like, this shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't have lost it. They shouldn't have it. And all of that is just a simple war on reality.
And the reality is you had it and then you didn't.
And you still remember it, and you still have the memories, and you still have the experience. And what changed?
And I think
Somebody
the
moved the
vigilant-
picture to a different part of the universe.
I think the vigilant person is going to not just wipe it out of their mind, because otherwise it's just going to keep happening to us. So the vigilant person, it happens and you say, oh, that wasn't too smart. Like when I go to Africa, they're a grab and run. So
Yeah.
strap it onto your body or have it under your shirt or in your pocket where it's out of sight and secure.
Yeah.
Because that's their style.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and that's called, I learned something
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Sam Bennett, who's a hilarious author who writes about artists getting paid properly and getting things done, because artists typically are, they're so in their creative brain that they can't do their logical thing at all. And most of it's a bunch of stereotypes that people just believe about themselves. Lots more coping skills, right? One of the things that she says that I absolutely love is when you're evaluating a plan that you have, the question is, how dumb will I feel if? So like, you're walking away from, you decided to go to a music festival and your laptop is in the back seat of your car and you think to yourself, no, I'll just leave it there, it'll be fine. Okay, how dumb will you feel if you come back to your car, the window's smashed and your laptop's gone? Maybe I'll put it in the trunk.
Yeah, well,
How dumb will I
interesting.
feel if I decide to leave my front door open when I know that there's roving bands of lunatics around? How dumb will I feel if, and I thought it was a great way to evaluate our plans to just, no, it'll be fine, really?
Yeah, like
And the
running
thing
off
is-
to the bathroom when the movers are still unloading.
Yeah,
How dumb will you feel?
and not keeping track of everything that they're doing. Yeah. It's and the other side of it is, once you're in that position where you should have asked, how dumb will I feel if I don't do this? The question is, can you forgive yourself? Can you bring enough compassion to yourself that you are allowed to make mistakes, even costly mistakes, and you still don't need to be hung up by the feet over a river or anything?
Oh, come on, Linda, tell us what the saboteurs would be saying in there.
Well, that's the judge, right? You should have been blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
And then
You
the
should
next
have
one
done
comes
that.
in.
You did that. Like, you're not in control of everybody in the universe. You can't be everywhere all the time. Be nice. Sheesh.
you can't stop from using the bathroom.
Well, then, if you
And
hadn't
you have
chosen that moment to use the bathroom, I bet you'd have a completely different story that wouldn't be any more fun.
I wish I had the other story.
You say that now.
But look how much milking you get out of that story.
Well,
That's what I
it's
say about me coming home from Uganda. $8,110.30 to get home.
uh-huh.
$8,110.30. So
How much
finally,
is being home worth to you?
well, it turned out to be $8,110.30. And when Zip said, but Mom, stop it, it's just money. I said, it's my money and it's my story. And I paid $8,110.30 for that story. I get to milk it. And I have such fun with it. And you're going to have a car story that will feed you and milk your conversations for, don't
You'll be
you
eating out on dinner parties from other people for years on that story. It's going to be really
Oh,
wonderful.
I have the double one working together. So I have the hypervigilant and the well, no, it's the hypervigilant and his twin brother hypervigilant too.
Well, it might be the judge and
They're both-
hypervigilant
maybe.
tag teaming you.
They're both together because they're both based on the trust factor, which happens to
But
be
the-
my word
I
of
bet the
the year.
victim, I bet the victim goes with that instead.
Oh yeah, well the
Look what
victim's in there for sure with
Look what
the
happened to
car.
me. I better be vigilant, not let that happen again.
Well,
I
and,
think
and the other choice, of course, Sandra, one of the other things you could have said in that instance is, wow, I had 8,000 something or other and 30 cents available
What?
to spend.
To get
Yeah,
home.
because I was smart enough to put it in my mortgage with an open mortgage where I could just take it out again. But really, I've
were
had
wealthy
freedom
enough
because
to
of
be
a
able
lot
to
of those
afford that.
choices. Yeah.
You were wealthy enough to be able to afford that. There's a funny story from IBM a long time ago. A senior vice president at IBM blew like $60 million or something, like made a massive, very expensive mistake for the company. And of course he goes into the CEO who's like, and he says, well, I guess I should give you my resignation. He says, are you kidding? I just paid $60 million for your education. It was an expensive lesson, but you learned it, I expect. And that's the sage perspective, right? You take the opportunity from this to learn something, that the gift of knowledge. You take the opportunity from this to strengthen a power, which might be taking self-defense or, being better at making arrangements for movers, or, getting better at assessing people based on whether or not you actually feel that they're trustworthy, and trusting yourself
or in
more.
the case of the car, I'm sorry to interrupt you for a moment because this goes right along with it. in the case of the car, I leave a car length of distance between me and the next car to make sure I don't have another car that goes into the back end of another car.
You've learned something, huh?
See, you learn things. That's the gift of knowledge, that you've learned something. And you've learned the gift of, power and self-control, like not, being in so much of a hurry that you ride the back end of another car. As I often say to, other drivers on the road, it's like you're just trying to be part of their life. You just want to meet them real bad.
My friend I haven't met yet.
Big part of the next couple of weeks of somebody's life. Yeah.
Strangers.
And of course,
going through my mind. Oh, I'm sorry. I think the thing going through my mind when it actually happened was they told you to leave more than 30 feet of space in between you and the next car.
Do you know
that was your judge.
Do you know what the Buddha would call that? There's a difference between knowing and understanding.
Yes. I did not have enough time to stop, but I didn't realize the car in front of me was dead stop on the highway. Who does that?
Oh, there was a lady in Canada, in Toronto, who on the 401 decided to stop to let some ducks go by in the HOV lane. And she was hit from behind by 4 motorcyclists, and 2 of them died, and she went to prison for 5 years. You're not allowed to stop in the HOV lane because ducks, just so you know.
You got hit them all. Ooh,
Mm-mm.
for ducklings.
Yeah, love ducks. There's more ducks. It's okay. Unless you like prison, it might be a nice place to stay for a while. Rent's low,
I've been going there for 17 years.
My partner often says, the interview questions, have you ever been in jail? She's like, oh yeah. They're like, what? She used to do detention monitoring.
Yeah.
He's a doctor. So
Oh.
but yeah, all those judges and things. Oh, the last gift we hadn't gotten to because we got stuck on the gift of knowledge. The gift of power is about getting our inner strengths stronger so that we get better at being more curious. We walk into a situation that looks like that we would have reacted as kids, like, oh, this is terrible. Is it? What is actually going on here? What's the whole story, not just this little piece of the story? How can I fix it? What can I do about it? Is there anything I can learn from this? Is there anything that these people need to learn from this? Is this just somebody else's path they have to walk? And the gift of inspiration is the one I think people find the most confusing, because they just don't understand how they can be inspired by something that's just so horrific.
But going back to the power, it's not only on that one. The one that sticks with me, have we got the empathy? So we go through each of the sages again. And so empathy, can we raise that power of to have empathy and to have empathy for ourselves? So now we can milk those stories and have fun with them because we already know we're okay. Here we are.
Well, and we've learned the lessons, and we've taken what we need from them, and we will continue. Often we'll be telling the story and learn something else about it, which is always fun. 15 years later, you're telling the story again. You're like, oh, I didn't notice that at the time. That's
now interesting. I watched Lisa Nichols speak and be inspired. Did you take that one? Either one of you take that one? That's a very good one. That's where I did a lot of my confidence in being on camera to talk, which, as you can tell, I do a lot of. I'm very comfortable on camera because I did Michelle Copper and then I did Lisa Nichols. And she does say about a story is you're just taking the cake out of the oven. You're still very sensitive to the heat of the situation. You have to let it cool before it becomes a story lesson. She said, because if you take it out of the oven and then you try and use it, you're still angry. Yeah, you're still angry. So she said, you have to take it out of the oven and let it sit on the counter and cool. And I'm like, that's a very interesting conversation, because she talks about how she uses the story of being abused. But it took her 5 years to let that cake cool before she could speak about it. And I'm like, that's a very interesting way of putting it. I
And I
like,
think it's important because that's what we're basically doing now with these saboteurs. We
Yeah.
we watch, are they there? What are they saying? We don't care, stop it. You looked after us then. And if the house is on fire right now, thank you, I better run. So they're
Yeah.
not going away anywhere. They're not
Yeah.
going away, and we
We're
don't
just
want them to
quieting
go
them.
away.
Yeah.
We don't
Mhm.
want them to go away because they have their critical base protection of us.
Yeah.
But we just can't let them control us. In other words, who's driving the bus? Are
Exactly.
they driving the bus, or am I there driving the bus and they're helping me?
One of the examples that I like for hypervigilance, and it was actually a travel agent who told my daughter this, and she's just like, well, yeah, obviously, because she didn't grow up the same way lots of people did. But he said, if you are in anywhere, just kind of doesn't matter where you are, if you're anywhere, and you turn the corner into like this new street, and you get that feeling, don't worry about what anybody else thinks about you. For no reason whatsoever, make up a story in your head. Oh, I forgot my umbrella, anything, turn around and walk away. Don't do that. Oh, it's probably nothing. Because that's walking into trouble, and your body knew it. Believe your body. And I think that's one of the other things, that this quieting those voices down so that they're not raging and attacking us all the time about everything, you know, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that with your hand. You know, that whole like that's nonstop judgmental thing that we have going on in our heads all the time with the tag team saboteurs, who are you're going to pop up with these great coping skills so we won't have to listen to the judge all the time.
They make so much noise we can't hear what's really important, and that would tie right in with I can't hear you, because what you do speaks louder than what you're saying. You're not being real. So if we can shut their voices down, not shut them up, they're important.
Just quiet them.
Quiet them down. That's it.
Yeah, so that we can hear them and go, okay, my
True or false?
my hypervigilant has said there's some danger around here. I'm going to look around and see if I can think of anything that it might be. And, you know, maybe down that street, there's a couple of shady looking people hanging around near an alley mouth. And I think, well, that's probably what they saw. I'll go that way. And if it's like, oh, I thought I smelled smoke, then you go around your house and see if you smell any smoke. And if you don't, well, thanks, hypervigilance, for letting me know there might be a problem. And I can see that there isn't. So calm down. Thank you.
thank you. Yeah.
So it's really quite an exercise that we get to do, and anybody can do it. So when we're just doing the finger and feeling it so that we can feel the tips of our fingers, or this one, I love this one.
This one I love too. I was just gonna say, one of my favorites is like this. There's something complicated and really sensual about like the inside edges of your fingers as your fingers go by them, and the like right in the middle of the palm where it hardly ever touches anything. You're like, this is really cool. I could do this all day.
Yes, but you see what happens, that takes us immediately from whatever distraction to this pleasure of this sensation, and here we are, we're okay.
Yeah, and then your thinking brain is back online, and it can assess the risk or dangers or what's actually going on, or to be curious about it, or to just be empathetic with somebody who's lost their minds in front of you,
Or
as opposed to you joining them. Yeah, ourselves. You know, that's that back part of our brain. One of the funny things is that for a long time for my clients, we'd be talking about how, you know, the 3-year-old does something and the back of their brain just goes all over the back of their three-year-old. And like when you can feel that coming, then you have much more ability to say, okay, I'm just going to take a breath before I say anything, and maybe figure out a way of what am I reacting to? Because the 3-year-old in front of me is very unlikely to be dangerous to me.
The 3-year-old inside me now, that's a different one.
The toddler inside me will see the 3-year-old as dangerous to me, but my adult brain, no. The thing that I have always known about arrested development and people who are under too much stress for too long as children is that we actually have parts of our brains, and this just ties directly into what Shirzad's always talking about. We have parts of our brains that grow in, and because we're under so much stress that we're in that constant fight, flight, freeze, and fawn moment, that we never get into that rest and grow. which means we never learn to use those parts of our brains, which is why they are not very strong, because we were over strengthening the parts that kept us alive. And they were still necessary because we were still under all that stress. We're bombarded with stress all the time. Half of it's coming from there, but don't bother them. They're having a good party. When we're in that stress all the time, we cannot take the time to be curious and explore this new capacity that our brain has. And that's why you end up with 40-year-olds walking around with 4-year-olds at driving.
I had something brilliant I was going to say, and
I was going to say, where do you feel a headache? When you have a headache, you know that the part of your brain that's working the hardest is where you feel it.
Where the headache is.
I tend to feel it right here.
I get headaches across my temples.
I try not to get them anymore.
I very, very rarely get headaches.
Yeah.
And genuinely, 99% of the time, if I get a headache, it's because I'm dehydrated. I drink 2 glasses of water and it goes away. Ooh, magic.
I get hungry and that happens. If I eat something, I'm good. But yeah, it's amazing to be aware of where you feel the pressure in your head when you do have them. And I've always known that I've been more fight or flight.
Which
because
I had the old brain down in there.
Such a self-advocate for myself because no one else was there to advocate for me.
Well, and you were constantly feeling in competition with those other people, as opposed to in cooperation, which would be much more natural family dynamics.
Even if we had loving families, it didn't matter because, somewhere in there, we knew in our little brains, if I'm not good, something's going to happen. If they don't want me anymore, where am I going to go? If they don't feed me, what am I going to eat?
Yeah, I tell parents all the time, you can't talk a kid out of their instincts. And those instincts to need you on their side, and they will do anything to please you, those are real. Because it wasn't a million years ago, and it wasn't in a different universe, that people used to leave their children in literally out for the wolves.
Yep.
And in what looked like very peaceful cooperative societies, their murder rates like the interior of Chicago, because if you don't get along and you stir the pot and you are obnoxious, they'll just kill you. You are too much trouble. Life is too much on the edge. They can't have people who stir things up and are a problem. You don't get to live being a problem child in cultures like that, and everybody knows it. So our natural instinct to need to fit in and belong are very, very real.
Yeah.
And
now,
just to separate that in our minds, not even separate. I mean, the Western society, we're so, career driven and company and factory and schools
productivity
and lines. The creative side doesn't get the workout that it needs. And they don't teach cursive writing in school anymore. It's all just printing now, which is disconnected.
Well, and the way that they teach drawing is all wrong anyways. Most people don't actually learn how to draw. They learn how to copy, which is very different than learning how to see shapes and forms, because that takes time in this other side of your brain. And if you're not in that side of your brain, you can't do it, because your left side will. One of the things that you see in developmental drawings is kids get better and better at filling up space and using negative space until they get to the point where their rational brain comes online and their prefrontal cortex develops, and then their drawing ability falls off, because we are so focused on rationality that they use symbols for drawing. And the symbol for an eye is very different than the shape of a real eye. And the symbol for a hand is very different than the real shape of a hand. So they stop being representational. They stop seeing reality as it is and start seeing it in symbols, because we think so much in symbols in our culture.
That's why I say it's our culture. We don't have, and there's other cultures where they work so much that they have only work and production in front of them. And man, it's hard being a human.
It is.
It is. And the interesting thing is that now, instead of being congratulating someone for being outside the box, it's now, okay, you've traced this nicely. You're going to get a gold star for doing what you're told, instead of.
Well, because that's what works for the system. And we interfere with people so much because we think if the system's happy, then the people will be happy.
Right.
And if we get the people to fit in the system, now we've got the factory workers, but of course, now we see all that's coming to an end as well.
Yeah.
There's, a lot of people are saying, oh, the end of the world is coming. And I'm saying, I think just the end of the world as we know it is coming.
Yeah.
Because
It was one of the things that I said about COVID really early on is I don't think this is going to wreck anything. I think it's going to tear off the bandage.
Mhm.
I think we're going to get to see what a mess this has become, as opposed to it's making a mess. It's just showing it off now.
Yep.
We just get
Yeah,
to see
it's showing its true colors, exactly.
Yeah, we can't hide anymore. You can't stand around saying, oh, we have a happy connected family who spends 99% of their time in different buildings from each other. When they all end up in the same building together for 6 weeks in lockdown, you find out that, oh, no, you don't actually.
Nope.
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 Can't
And
do
you
that.
have, none of you have any idea at all how to actually get along with people because you have no practice.
Right.
Your version of getting along with people is sitting in the desk next to them and not actually poking them with your pen. You're not allowed to interact with them anyways. Sit still and look at that. Or sit still and find a way of pretending you're looking at that because you're doing something else with your actual brain while you're super intense. So I wrote this funny bunch of things. At least they amused me. So I'm going to share them with you.
Yes, please.
I had discovered that my saboteurs are probably as strange and confusing to other people as they are to me. In the video the other day, Shazaz talked about how all of them have a lie, all of them have results that work. They leave crumbs, but they actually make it worse. But initially there's these little tiny, like it worked in the moment. And I think, well, that doesn't make any sense. So I was trying to figure out what the voice of each one of them was when the crumbs arrive. So the victim was, well, that's bad. Here, let me make you feel worse. Isn't that better? The hyper rational was, are you feeling too much? A little too alive for you? Here, I'll make you feel dead. Better? The hyper rational is, oh no, that was the hyper rational. The avoider, oh, feeling overwhelmed by too much to do and you don't know what to do first? Let's leave it all for tomorrow and then there'll be all of today's to do too. Is that better? The controller says, oh, I'm feeling really out of control. Let's control everything that we can't actually control. That'll make it better. The hypervigilant says, oh, there might be a danger somewhere. It's summer, it's scarier. Look everywhere, look everywhere, look everywhere. Feeling better? The stickler says, oh no, you made a mistake. No mistakes, no mistakes. We have no mistakes. There are no mistakes. Nobody else is allowed to make any mistakes either. Are you feeling better now? And the pleaser says, oh no, somebody might be mad and blame me. Oh, take care of everything. So if anything goes wrong, it'll be your fault. Better?
Better. That sounds much better.
And the restless says, feeling uneasy because there's big stuff to do. Here, take on 11 more projects. Feeling better?
You want us to judge you now?
Which one of those was the right way to go?
I did like the breadcrumbs, and I find that every so often you get that tidbit of positivity just long enough to say, okay, I'm on the right track.
And then it all goes sideways again. Russell
Exactly.
Brand, Russell Brand, who was some kind of famous person. I don't know if he was a musician or an actor.
He was married to Katy Perry.
That can be a reason to be famous. So he had a very large drug problem. And he's got a lot to say about addiction now that he's in full recovery and has sorted his bits of pieces out. And one of the things that he says that I think is absolutely brilliant and really explains all of these is nothing is as addictive as something that almost works.
Wait, all right, nothing is as addictive as something. Oh,
Almost works.
It almost works. You're feeling out of control everything. That'll feel like it works. No, it doesn't. Well, it kind of little bit. If you can get it to work, it works. It almost works. So do it harder.
Almost, yes. So let's try a little again.
Yeah.
Try it again.
Try harder. Try harder.
I can make
Do it again.
work. I can make
Do it
work.
again.
I can make
Do it
work.
again. One, and that's basic conditioning as well. Like you can condition almost any mammal as long as you give them what they are needing kind of sporadically, which is why gambling addiction is so addictive, because gambling wins are so random. And randomization is the number one for conditioned behavior. If it works rarely, sometimes a couple of times in a row, but not very often, then you're much more likely to try it 6 million times, because if it's 128 times and then 400 times and then 3 times and then 2 times and then once and then 800 times and then 20 times, you're going to do it as many times as you need to make it work.
But
It's
when
also
you
why-
finally leave, at that 126 times, you're
It'll
just
be the
picking up your
127.
coat and
He's the
somebody
next
else puts
person
in
that
that
comes in.
127. And I knew I should have stayed.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And that's just, and it's that, I'm just going to wait until the next one, because it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, because they've been conditioned to know that it is coming.
Which is
And
like,
the
Wait,
evil
wait.
people who program one-armed bandits, they know that gamblers are much more addicted on a near win than they are on a far win. So what they programmed in is way more double cherries than anything else. So they'll see, oh, I almost won. That means they're closer to winning. And they really believe it. It's just, it's built in. And because we're as conditionable as dolphins and chickens are.
now, if we want to bring that into today's everyday life, for every day one of us, as soon as I get that new hat and get my hair done up, I'll be able to go out.
Exactly.
As soon as I have a suit, I can go out and share my wisdom. As soon
Yeah.
as I
Another
have a
one.
car back, I can start to do whatever it is you thought you wanted to
Or-
do.
As soon as I get that car back, then my life will be better. I'll be happy when.
Or I have 9 no's, so the next one has to be yes, right?
Statistically correct.
Statistically incorrect, in fact. You can have 8 million no's and there could be no yeses coming. It depends on what you ask. You know, if you walk up to people and say, can I stab your eyeballs out with a pen? I'm pretty sure that the 10th one isn't going to be a yes. A friend of my daughter's, oh my God.
But within sales, you're general so that you don't go completely crazy with all the rejection. You
Well, no,
know,
you
you
just-
do 10 calls, you're going to get to 3 people, you know, because you're asking consistent, proper question. But you're
Well,
right.
and
you
you
know,
have
if
warm
it's
leads, it works
wacky.
better. The trick for sales is actually to look at it the other way around. You already have the no. Go see if you can find a yes.
That's right.
You
But-
you have 8 billion no's. Go ask, you might get a yes. You start with the no's. A friend of my daughter's hit a deer. And then she tells this story in this way that's like, this is conditioning. This is conditioning at its purest form. She says, you know how you're driving along and there's always 3 or 4 deer? And 100% of the people she says this to go, what? It's like, yeah, there's always 3 or 4 of them. Really? Like, yeah, I hit the 5th one. She was so convinced that they only go around in packs of 3 or 4 that she didn't have to worry about whether or not there was another. She's going to drive behind the 4th one and that'd be fine. She hit the 5th one. How did you come up with the idea that there was always 3 or 4 of them? I don't. How many packs of deers have you seen?
Yeah.
I often see
A
them one at
bunch
a
of them.
time. What do you mean?
No, you see them grazing in the field, but there's usually a mom and a baby, and then, but
Or a
you
mom
have-
and 2 babies, or sometimes a
you
mom
you
and
do
3
see them in
babies.
little flocks when they're grazing in the fields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not along
well,
the side of the road. They're around here. There can be any of them, upwards of 9 of them. Like,
Yeah, any number.
and you're driving through the States, you can see like 120 of them at a time.
Especially in
Funny.
Texas.
It's the funny things that people's brains decide. I know all about that and I don't need any more information.
Well, it feels comforting to know
It
something.
does. Well, and that's my hyper rational again, as long as I have
But
all the
that's
right
also
answers.
faith, you know, so everybody has their faith in whatever, their belief. And that's
How
what
many deers there gonna be?
our core, but our core belief that stops us is the same thing.
I'm not good enough.
Well, mine is I haven't been able to receive. I've finally just been waking up that it's okay, I can receive. So now I really have to work at that for,
Well,
not
then
work at it, but I have to accept. I have to accept.
what's
it's
the
okay.
core of that? If you say I can't receive, well, what's the core of that? Why not? Because I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
not worthy of it. I don't deserve it. I'm not good enough.
It's only if I
That's
can
the
give,
just-
if I can give an equal amount, so then I keep it.
Well,
Yeah,
that's transactional. That's not
Yeah.
a gift. that's a transaction.
Right, right. So that's what I'm saying. So it even goes beyond just the nonsense that we look at and say, you know, they only come in fours or whatever.
Yeah.
That we can laugh at. But then we start to look at our own belief and what we act out of. And it
Yeah.
is so deep, we don't even see it.
Mhm.
One that I found a couple of, probably sometime middle of last year. And, you know, I am 57, so getting fun new things to learn is, you know, exciting, especially when it's about my childhood. We had a taboo in our family about not telling grandma stuff because grandma couldn't handle things. That was the story. Grandma can't handle it. She'll worry too much about it. So we don't tell grandma the truth. And that kind of bubbled up into, we don't tell anybody the truth. And I noticed that I don't cry in public because, well, you know, we don't let on what's going on in the feeling zone because grandma can't handle it. And I realized it's not grandma. It was the men. Grandmas can handle crying. That's just a thing. They got girlfriends, they cry all the time. It's the men who can't handle the women's emotions, which is why you're not allowed to show them at all. So I actually have this core belief that's completely lunacy, that if I start crying, everybody will think the whole world is ending. Because that's what it felt like to me when I was a kid. They can't handle my emotions. My dad, that great big huge scary guy with the big loud voice and the black mustache, he can't handle my sadness. Oh, that's got to be really dangerous then.
It's a big sadness with lots of power.
Apparently.
We didn't do our dirty laundry outside our home.
No.
Yes, I was just gonna say that. Oh, when I wrote my book, my mom's like, we don't air our dirty laundry. I'm like, I wrote half a chapter about you as far as my growing up. How was that all about airing our dirty laundry? I wrote it mostly about men I dated.
Have you ever noticed that people hone in on that one thing? Like,
yes,
The
you
one
read the
thing
whole
that
book and
touches
that's the
them.
only thing.
That's
Yeah,
the only thing that went. "See,
Yeah,
you know, she's
that's the
got
only
me."
thing you noticed. I love the
That's
meme
the
that
thing
goes
they
around.
need to look at inside, because that one thing that tinged them that much is such a deep.
It's that
Well,
mirror. Yeah.
they even saw it, even if they read the whole book and they saw me writing about a situation with a different man, they put it back. And I'm like, yeah, that's because patterns repeat. If you grow up with one pattern, you're going to keep repeating that pattern until you learn the lesson.
Figure it
I
out.
remember having one date. I was dating him for 6 months. It was the longest relationship I had other than my husband. And I talked about sitting kind of in the corner of his kitchen while he was talking to his kids. And my parents read that as if it was, well, no, my dad didn't read
Say
the book.
anything.
He wasn't there. He had Alzheimer's. So my book came out after he had Alzheimer's. But my mom and my two brothers read it as, oh, she sat in the corner and while everybody was talking around her. And even though I was talking about Carl's family, they took it internally. And I'm like, guilty?
You know why? Yeah, because they noticed that a long time ago. Yeah.
See much?
I love the author's meme that says, if you don't want me to write mean things about you in my book, you shouldn't have been mean to me in my life.
Yes, thank you. I've been saying that. I said, who aired the dirty laundry in the first place?
I didn't make the laundry dirty.
Who created the dirty laundry?
Yeah.
Should we do some little wind up comments? Because you're going to probably clip out some of this chitter chatter.
Oh,
So we might
probably.
like a little wind up thingy.
Sure.
But how would we like to wind this up?
Well, let's just talk about what we're finding about how powerful the program is and why it is that we'd like to share it with other people.
And who are we going to share it with? I think it'd be a hoot to put it on the share it on the coaching page.
Yeah.
That would be
absolutely.
great.
Yeah.
You could
So
even
you
put
go
you
first.
could even put it on uncut if you want, so that nobody's just taking it and using it wherever, because unless they do
Right.
some work, it won't be of any use.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna start this, if you don't mind, with my saying, when I was a little girl, I was the victim. And now that I'm a grown woman, I'm a hyper vigilant.
I love it. That's fantastic. I am finding this program both one of the hardest things that I've ever had to really encounter, and also one of the easiest, because the tools are so thoroughly honed that they're very, very effective very quickly. but I'm also uncovering parts about myself and my pattern of coping skills that I genuinely had no awareness of until this program. It's making an enormous difference in my mental health, in my own happiness in my life, and in all of my relationships. It has really been incredibly powerful for me.
Mm.
And for me, I'm kind of on the long end of the stick here, and I love being around all these young people that are still learning. They're learning, I'm still learning. So mine are much quieter. I have found that observer in me a couple decades ago, but that means that with that being quiet, I'm listening to that real quiet stuff down inside. And so when I'm doing my PQ reps and my quiet time, I'm feeling those, just like once the voices are subdued, now we can hear some truth in there to check out and see and make a decision around, to discern, the discerning. And so I'm really appreciative, first of being with a wonderful pod and into a wonderful program, but also not being judged, because I know I say, well, I don't really have a lot of that chatter that's out loud keeping me awake. But you guys know there's the deeper stuff, and that's where I'm working. So I really appreciate this whole program and you guys. Thank you.
We appreciate you because you have the wisdom to help us know where we're going. You're the next part of the roadmap to say that it will come out. It will come out and it will get better. And I love that about you, is the fact that I can know that as I get older, for my 55 years now that I've graduated to, it's not going to get harder.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you showing us that path.
Yeah,
Thank you,
well, and the research is very clear on that. People get happier as they get older, and that's just the truth. That whole lie about, your teen years are your best years of your life is just, that's nonsense. And everybody knows. I think they just say that to people to make them feel better about the horribleness that they've forgotten or something. But the other part of this is who we're going to share this with. And I'm not only sharing it with my clients, and this is going to be really important work for my clients to be able to do some of the stuff that I've been helping them with for a really long time in a much more directed, quick and simple way of really getting to that, how to get your brain back online. It's what I've been calling it all the time. Your survival brain takes over, and how to get your thinking brain back online so that you can react to your children in ways that keep them from being in their survival minds into their 50s like we have been.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your purpose in life? What's your I'll start with that, because I have discovered that me being free to be me, warts, all foolishness and laughing a lot, where some people say, Sandra, you're never going to get working with the professionals, you're not in your suit at the boardroom table. Too bad, but I surely trust that I am the light at the end of the tunnel. After all the crap that life can come up with and all the crap we can put ourselves through, we can laugh.
Absolutely.
And in true joy. And in
I
true
love that.
joy.
That is fantastic. Suzanne, your purpose in life. Why is this important to you? Who are you going to share it with?
As my author name says, and my picture says, I am the beacon. I am carrying the torch for Aspie women to know that there is light at the end of their tunnel, confidence at the end of their journey, and love at the end of their life.
Woo!
Woo!
Love it. Some goosebumps
Awesome.
there. That's great.
Awesome. My goal is to create goosebumps on all the parents in the world. My genuine goal in my real life, my whole life, not just my professional life, is to really, really understand myself. It has been a quest that I've been on since I was a very young child. I found psychology when I was a very young teenager, and I have just genuinely been trying to figure out all this complicated inside stuff and sharing as much of it as I can to make other people's paths easier, especially in their families, so that they can connect and really support their children in ways that make it so that we may be able to have a generation of children who do not have to overcome their childhoods.
And with that, I thank you, ladies. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you very much.
Namaste.
The sage in me sees the sage in you.
I like that. The sage in me says the sage in you. Nice way to finish. So I would say we're done with that. And Linda, if you decide to put this right up on the coaching site, let them play it if they like. People might understand the importance of being together in a pod, because I think there's a lot of pods that are not paying attention to each other.
I think we are the one of the stronger ones. From what
It
I'm
certainly
hearing.
sounds like it. Yeah. I hear a lot of people saying, you know, I'm not getting anything, or they're irritating each other, which is like, oh, you've got a little work to do. Have we? Okay.
So I think if you post this, Linda, with a little write-up about the power of the pod and pull yourselves together and be willing to learn.
And be willing to share, be vulnerable.
And
You have to say,
learned. This is what we have learned and how we share. You know, so put that little write-up first, then they can re-follow it or delete it. That won't matter, or they won't delete it because it's on the site. But
do what you want. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then individually, it would be lovely if you can pull together almost a little promo thing that all three of us will enjoy using with our people. Certainly, it'll be a big help on your website and your Aussie site. I have a website and my Facebook page, and you know, I could put stuff like that up there. And so those are the things I'd like to use. And there's nothing on here that's giving away any confidentiality that we're not.
No.
This is
No, these are all public stories.
Yeah.
As my business coach says, show your scars, not your wounds.
Yes, love it.
And I think that's what we finally get to.
I think so. Yeah. Well, and then that's where we get to when we get to the sage part and we can see the gift and the power and the inspiration from it. What we have is a thoroughly healed.
Yeah.
Oh,
Scar
and
is
the
left.
support we have for each other is a big part of making this whole pod a success. We're not, well, that's your problem. We're in support of each other. And you said that at the very beginning, Linda, is we're not just talking about just the PQ reps or just the lessons. We're applying it to all of our life, and we're being supportive to each other for all of our life.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing I just realized, because I got in and I thought, oh crap, I haven't been, I don't know about you guys, I haven't been listening to the little pod review before our pod meetings.
Oh, okay. The one
And
little.
when I went in, I thought, damn, and they are useful. So they would be good before. So I'm going to catch up the ones we missed, but I would suggest that we all watch the pod talk before we have our pod meeting.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and we're supposed to share it in the meeting, like we're supposed to use it to run the meeting, but I find that, I don't know if it's my internet or if it's just Zoom can't handle it anymore. Trying to run a video with sound during a meeting and sharing screens, it just makes everything so much more unstable.
I think just that he brings a little slant to it. Like when you're looking at it, think about it this way. So I think it would be wise, but you're right. We don't need to play it there. I mean, we're supposed to be a half hour. So if we play his 15-minute pod thingy before we have our 15 minutes, aren't going to do it for us. So.
Yeah.
And I like it that we have our half hour and we're off and gone again. So
Awesome sauce. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day. See you soon.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Linda. See you soon.
Goodbye. Good
We have to
night.
connect.
Good night.
Yes, we will.